It's time now for your weekly fishing reports and real-time outdoor news from the South region. This is Fox Sports Outdoors South.
Hey everybody, welcome into the show. Of all the 50 states in America, which ones would you say would be the very best crappie fishing states? Would it be the great state of Texas or Oklahoma or Alabama or maybe Georgia? Well, on today's show, I hope to present some evidence to you that just may prove that the state of Mississippi, the Magnolia State, just may be one of the best crappie fishing states, at least for big crappie, of any state in America. Now, to help us do that, we got a couple of true crappie fishing professionals along with us today. Brad Chappell and Bo Hudson, guide for crappie at reservoirs all up and down the I-55 corridor and at the Oxbow Lakes off the Mississippi River for some of these big crappie. We're going to be fishing side by side with them today and demonstrating for you some very unusual techniques that they use to catch crappie here in Mississippi. While we're out doing that on Lake Washington, which is a little oxbow lake, 5,000 acres just off the Mississippi River, we're going to be swinging you around your local region for your favorite fishing reports from your best lakes, rivers, and bays. It's going to be a lot of fun right now. We're going to get that Nitro Z8 launched down the boat ramp into Lake Washington, just south of Greenville, Mississippi. And while we're doing that, we're taking you back to the FSN studios for your weekend planning.
The Salooner tables are promising some of the best fishing activity of the month for this weekend. Saturday's forecast shows excellent conditions with the best daylight hours beginning around noon. And Sunday's outlook is listed as good, with the peak action starting at 1:18 in the afternoon. Expect sunrise to take place at 6:02, with sunset happening at 8:37. And Friday features a full moon, so evenings should be bright. We'll be right back with all of the current fishing reports from around the southeast. And I'll return with professional angler Kevin Van Dam with some boating tips on this week's Ask the Pro feature.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day. By Mercury Marine, celebrating 75 years of marine excellence. By Stren Fishing Lines, the standard of dependability. And by Tracker Boats. It's more than just a boat, it's a tracker.
There's one right there. There he comes. Hey, welcome back everybody. Fox Sports Outdoors today coming to you from Mississippi, home of big crappie. I'm gonna get the net out after this one. Oh, look at this. My first Mississippi crappie out of Lake Washington. Oh, and the jig just came out of his mouth. That easy. Look at that. That's a fat pig right there. All right, Fox Sports Outdoors at Lake Washington today. This is an oxbow lake. It's a cut-off oxbow. Some of the oxbows are open to the river where there's actually current coming out of the river through the oxbow, but this one is actually cut off at both ends. It was cut off a couple of hundred years ago. It's about 5,000 acres. It's only about 20 feet deep at the very deepest, but most of the lake is 6, 7 feet deep, something like that. That's all it is, and these fish stay shallow pretty much year-round. What a great crappie. That's gonna be man, I don't know, that's probably close to a 2-pound crappie for my very first one right there. Let him go back. All right. Well, we're gonna do two different techniques today, or talk to you about two techniques that they use here in Mississippi to catch these crappie: spider rigging and long lining, and I'll talk to you about both of those a little bit later on. Now, the water's pretty dingy here. Most of Mississippi has pretty dingy water, and you can see down about maybe 18 inches, something like that, and that's on a clear day. Right now, let's get you started with some fishing reports from around your local region, and let's go to the Carolinas with English Glover.
Hey folks, Captain E here with your Carolinas report. This week brought to you by Marshall's Marine, located in Lake City and Georgetown, South Carolina. Your bass boat specialist since 1969. For all your nitro and bass tracker needs, visit www.marshallsmarine.com. And all along the Carolinas right now, the saltwater is hot. Not only are the temperatures hot, but the fishing is hot. We've been through that transition period, and now the mackerel are starting to move in to all those live bottoms and inshore reefs. And we've also started to see the flounder continue to move into the creeks. And just recently this week in Merle's Inlet, We had a great flounder tournament for the Rotary Club here, and we had some great fish with all of the top 7 fish weighing over 3 pounds. But the nearshore reefs right now, the spade fish have showed up like I've been saying every week. They're going to continue to be there through the summer months. Get those jelly balls, get out there and target them. And also moving into the offshore side of things, the billfish are starting to show up in the Carolinas with that warmer water settling in, and the guys are getting out in that 700-800 foot of water that has some structure on it, and they're starting to hear some nice blue marlin and sailfish starting to get called out there. Next week, I'm going to be heading to western North Carolina, and I'm going to get up and tour a couple of the lakes where I've gotten some emails from you folks. If you're up in the western North Carolina area and may not have emailed me yet, please send me an email to inglis1970@yahoo.com and tell me why I need to come to your lake so we can come get a good report and learn a little bit about the lake that you fish on. Hey, it's going to be a lot of things going on in the freshwater side of things right now. Early mornings, get out and get ready for that topwater striper bite and be ready to target those bass out in that deeper water, again, with some football jigs or something you can get down deep and get ready for some large fish.
We're still on Washington Lake in Mississippi, just off the Mississippi River. We're out here with Bo Hudson and Brad Chappell, and you can see right in front of me, Brad is tied into one right now, and this looks like a little bit better fish right here. Bo's got the net there. These guys guide for these fish and stay on top of them on lots of lakes. All right, that is what you come to this lake for right there. They catch them like this regularly. You can book a guide trip with these guys, and if you want to do that, we'll put their phone number up on the screen, and Brad's got a Facebook page, and they're gonna slap a scale on that fish just to see what it weighs, and 2 pounds and 5 ounces. So there's you a legit 2-pound crappie right there, 2 pounds, 5 ounces. We're not keeping them today, so we're letting them go back, but that's what you can catch right here. That one got a hit. I got a hit right there. Got him. All right. We got us another crappie. We came up splashing right there behind the power pole. Another big old crappie. Look at this. This is just the way they grow over here. Welcome back, everybody. Glad you're with us on the show today. We are catching some whopper crappie today in Mississippi. I told you at the beginning of the show that I was going to probably convince you that Mississippi may be one of the best crappie lakes in the entire United States. And there's a perfect example of the way they grow over here. We're going to let that one go back. Let me explain to you some of the opportunities to catch crappie. Now, as I told you, Bo and Brad will give you all their information at the end of the show. They guide for these fish at all these lakes. But in the I-55 corridor, starting up north, there's Lake Sardis, Enid, then there's Grenada, which is a dynamite crappie lake, and then Ross Barnett. Then there are the Oxbow lakes that are just coming off the Mississippi River, and this is one of them, Lake Washington. There's Lake Lee just north of here, and several more all the way down to Vicksburg. This is barren fishing. There's no cover, no brush, no structure, no drop-offs. This is just a big open bowl, which is the way it is on most of these reservoirs, and the fish suspend up off the bottom, and that's why it takes these long lining techniques and spider rigging techniques like we're showing you today. And let's check in with the rest of Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia, your freshwater fishing reports with Jimmy Jacobs, followed by the saltwater report and Bob McNally.
Albany's Flint River Aquarium is an interactive journey to the underwater world of the Flint River. Peer into a blue hole with 120 species of fish, alligators, and turtles. Catch a nature film, see the aviary, and enjoy hands-on activities for the entire family. We're now into June and the hot weather has arrived, which is characteristic of summertime throughout the South. Temperatures are heating up and this usually slows the fishing down. But that's not necessarily true if you're after hybrid bass. Summer can be a great time for catching hybrids. Allatoona Lake is just northwest of Atlanta and it's one of Georgia's best waters for catching hybrid bass. This 12,000 acre reservoir is stocked with about 100,000 hybrids annually. The fish you catch will average about 2 pounds, but don't be surprised if you catch a 5 or 6 pounder as well. Jigs, crankbaits, and inline spinners are all good baits, and white or shad pattern are the colors to be using. Another option is to free line a live shad behind your boat. One summer hotspot on the reservoir is in the Etowah River arm of the lake. It's about a mile north and a mile south of Galt's Ferry Landing. Look for the gulls in the air or for fish breaking on the surface in the late afternoon to find the hybrids. In Mississippi, you can also catch hybrids this month. Head over to Eagle Lake. It's a horseshoe-shaped oxbow off of the Mississippi River. It's just north of Vicksburg. It forms the Mississippi-Louisiana border. Now here the hybrids travel in big schools and they stay in the deep water. You want to try trolling deep diving crankbaits for these fish. In Alabama, the crappie spawn is now over, but the fish are still biting on Lake Eufaula. What you look for is brush piles under docks over deep water. The tactic you use is shooting up under that structure. Use a slingshot flip to send a jig and grub up into the shade in there to let it sink before you start your retrieve.
Hi everyone, welcome to Fox Sports Outdoors Coastal Fishing Report. This part of the program is brought to you by Egret Baits, makers of the new Voodoo Shrimp. They can also be fished with the new Voodoo Rattling Cork, which is great for trout, redfish, and even triple tail this time of year. So get yourself a Voodoo Shrimp. Well, rain and unstable weather has kind of put a damper on some fishing in some areas. It lasts for several days and then the weather clears and the fishing gets good again. That's the case over in Alabama when I was talking to Captain Patrick Garmison, who fishes Lower Mobile Bay. He said when you can get a few days of holding that weather off, you can really catch a lot of trout, reds, and flounder. He's been fishing rock piles, gas rigs, and shrimp boat wrecks in the Dolphin Island area, but he's always looking for clear water. He's using live shrimp in about 8 to 10 feet of water, and that's the key, clear water. Find clear water, you'll catch some fish. Further to the west, over in Mississippi, Captain Sonny Schindler in Bay St. Louis is doing very well fishing the east side Louisiana marsh. He said the trout fishing has really been good, again, when you get that good weather. He cruises and he looks for slicks on the surface, birds, and of course bait. He uses popping corks, and he's fishing a live shrimp underneath it or a jig, like the Voodoo Shrimp. With a Voodoo popping cork, it'd be great. He's also catching plenty of slot redfish along the bay shorelines over there in that Louisiana marsh area. And then when he runs back to the Mississippi waters, in open water, he's looking for triple tail, which are running up to 10 pounds now. Over in Georgia, it's still sharks. There are plenty of sharks behind the shrimp boats, lots of black tips and spinners. These are 100-pound fish, and they are great on light tackle. The tarpon are just starting to show up too around those shrimp boats, and it won't be but just a few weeks and those fish will really turn on. The trout fishing inside has also gotten good with warmer, clearer weather, fishing around the oyster bars, using popping corks and shrimp.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Costa Sunglasses. See what's out there. By Luz, setting a new standard in fishing performance. Feel the difference. By Strike King Lures, #1 in fishing. By Lowrance Electronics. Find, navigate, dominate.
There's one right there. Got him. That feels like a good fish right there. Hey, we're still on Lake Washington, home of big crappie. I tell you, the state of Mississippi is got to be the most underrated state for crappie fishing of all the states in America. Let's see if I can pull him right in here and net him. I got him. All right, there is just one more of those good average sized crappie that grow in the state of Mississippi right there. Look at the fat belly on that dude. They just eat shad and minnows and crawfish. All right, well, we're gonna let that one go back. You get your release today. Okay, let me show you the two setups for catching these crappie the way they catch them here in the southeast, particularly here in Mississippi. This is a 14-foot long Lew's crappie pole. This is the Wally Marshall Signature Series. And all I'm doing is making a long cast out there, and then I'm peeling off some line and letting this bait go about 20 yards behind the boat. Got the trolling motor on constant, and I'm rolling about 1.0 miles an hour, anywhere from 0.8 to 1.1. Then once this bait gets out there, I put the long rod in the front rod holder so it holds that bait out away from the boat. Then I've got the shorter 11, 12-foot rod right in here behind it. So I roll them side by side on this side, two on that side, and then I've got the trolling motor up here on constant, 0.8 to 1.1 miles an hour with a little 1/24 ounce Moglo jig head, Bobby Garland. I'll show you the baits at the end of the show. Now the other way that they get caught here is if they're not scattered like they are today. We're covering a lot of water with this. We're just trolling up and down, little 6-foot break line here. It goes from about 4.5 to about 6.5 feet, staying right on that break line and just trolling up and down in circles, covering a lot of ground. Now, if they bunch up a little more where we can get right on top of them, then that spider rigging technique works well, and that just involves more vertical fishing. So all you're doing is just letting out about 4 or 5 feet of line, something like that, and slowing that trolling motor down to about 0.3 miles an hour. And I'm watching on my Lowrance HDS 9 up here. This is the touchscreen unit, and I've got it set up where I can see my speed over ground over here in the top left-hand side of the screen. I'll show you a quick shot of what that looks like here. On the spider rigging, you roll along about 0.3, 0.4, real slow, and you set these rods more horizontally, straight out away from the boat, fishing straight down, gently rolling along, covering a lot less water, but when the fish are bunched up, that spider rigging technique works a lot better.
Hey guys, middle of June, I'm going to talk to you about Tennessee and Kentucky, but really there's one place to talk about this time of year, and it's Kentucky Lake. I love fishing in any other body of water, but I'm telling you right now, nationally, this lake is known for the month of June. We've had some big tournaments here locally recently, two-day 50-pound limits. I mean, you cannot do that anywhere else. They're offshore. This is absolutely the best time to be here. If you'll get here now, fish a deep diving crankbait, a 10XD, a 6XD by Strike King, a big 10-inch worm, or a big heavy football jig, you won't have any trouble finding them. Get on the main river channel, find some place that the current hits it, look for the bait with your draft or your depth finder, and you'll find the fish. Aside from that, guys, Lake Cumberland, you've got from now until the end of the month to get in some really good striper action. Big fish below the locking dam, Cheatham locking dam specifically, I've heard some great reports from. Catch them on a topwater bait and a wake bait, or people are using like live skipjack or big shad. Guys, it's hot, the fishing's great. Get here, we'd love to see you in Tennessee, Kentucky. God bless.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Exide AGM Marine Batteries. Starts like new, stays like new longer. By Gene LaRue and Bobby Garland Lures. With our baits, a good day of fishing is in the bag. By Motor Guide, trolling motors engineered for anglers. And by Nitro Performance Fishing Boats. Welcome to the big leagues.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for the Ask the Pro feature. This week's question is from Joshua, who asks, what are some good tips on driving your boat in strong winds and big waves? For the answer, we asked tournament legend Kevin Van Dam.
You know, that's a good question because I spend a lot of time on the Great Lakes where the waves get real big and the wind seems to always be blowing. The biggest thing is pay a lot of attention looking out in front of you, trying to look at the wave pattern in front of you, and never go directly with the waves or directly into really big waves. You want to always cut them at a little bit of an angle. And you know, so if you got to go across the lake this way and the wind's blowing right at you, kind of go back and forth the same way a sailboat would have to go. Just take your time, you know, keep that engine trimmed, you know, a little bit lower, keep your jack plate down, keep that bow up, and just take your time and go back and forth at an angle through those waves.
Thank you, Kevin. If you have a question for one of the experts, visit our website, follow the Ask the Pro link, and let us know. Now let's see which viewer wins the Costa Catch of the Week.
This week's winner in the Costa Catch of the Week contest is Shay Marcris of Fairhope, Alabama, showing off a 40-inch redfish she caught out of Mobile Bay. And get this, that 40-inch redfish weighed 27 pounds and she caught it on just 12-pound test monofilament line. If you'd like to enter our Big Fish Photo Contest, the Costa Catch of the Week, simply go to our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com, and on the right-hand side of the front page, click in the Costa Catch of the Week box, follow the instructions. You could be our next winner of a brand new pair of Costa sunglasses. Now, you can see all of the Costa frame and lens styles, like the frame style I've been wearing on today's episode called Tag, at the Costa website. You get there by going back to the front page of our website, clicking on the Costa logo, and from there it takes you straight to the Costa website. You can see all of their frame and lens styles. Pick out one for your very own. Next up on the Academy Sports and Outdoors Right Stuff feature, it's the right gear to do some long lining or spider rigging like you saw us doing on this week's episode in Mississippi. To do this, you're absolutely going to need a great trolling motor like the Motor Guide Tour Edition or the XI5 that we talked about, and you need a great battery like the Xide AGM batteries are available all across our region. This is where all marine battery technology is headed. They're a little more expensive, but well worth it. They last way longer. They charge quicker. You can mount them in any position on their side, right side up, any way you want because they're sealed. The new Xide AGM batteries are the way to go. Now, as far as the rigs that we used for the long lining today in particular, we started with a 14-foot Lew's Wally Marshall Troll Tech crappie rod. Again, this is a 14-footer to get you way out away from the boat. And for fishing a little closer in, it's the Wally Marshall Signature Series 11-footer. So you've got a 14 and an 11 side by side on each side of the boat. That does a great job. And as you can see here, we used the little Bobby Garland Stroll R. That's a great trolling bait, a little long lining bait to catch these big crappie here at Washington. A few weeks before our show went on the air this season, I was asked to give the eulogy at my Aunt Patty's funeral. It was a really great experience because she lived a very full life. She rode in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. She appeared on an episode of Rescue 911. She was a competitive barrel racer, and she even got to babysit Tarzan and Jane's pet monkey named, remember, Cheetah. You know, when it was time for my Aunt Patty to go, she looked back on a life well lived. She was a great wife, a great mother. She knew her Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. She was ready to go, and when that time came, she had no regrets. You know, one of my favorite country songs is by a singer named Tim McGraw, who sings a song called Live Like You Were Dying. And it talks about living your life like each day was your very last. So here's the question. What would you do if today or tomorrow were your last day on earth? My recommendation for you and me both is to live each day like it was our very last day. Live life to its fullest. Then when it's time to go, you look back over your shoulder, no regrets. Hey, I hope you enjoyed our trip to Washington Lake here in Mississippi, just off the Mississippi River, with a couple of good dudes, good anglers, good fishing guides. If you want to book a trip with Bo and Brad, you can book that. The information you see right now on your screen, or you can get that on the members only section of our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com. Hey, don't forget to join us next Thursday evening for the next episode of our show. Then the show re-airs on the weekend as well. You can always get the latest time for the next episode of our show right on the front page of that same website. See you next week. Until then, I'm Barry Stokes saying be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all.